The Fed has raised interest rates to sky-high levels, and because of this, other central banks have been doing the same. This is putting a strain on the global economy and has shrunk global imports and exports. But why exactly is the Fed doing this? The Fed is raising interest rates for one reason: inflation. Inflation in the US is currently playing around 8.5%, and the Fed has a goal of bringing this down to 2%. They plan on doing this by eliminating demand, thus the interest rate hikes. However, Jim Rickards points out that they have got this all wrong. Stick around as we analyze an interview from lawyer turned economist Jim Rickards. Thanks for all the support you've shown our channel. Let's dive right into the video. First, Jim Rickards dismisses the rumors that the United States is experiencing a financial panic. He instead insists that we are in a recession by pointing out that the country's GDP has been falling for the last 2 quarters. Recessions should not be confused with financial panics, according to Jim Rickards, who also notes that there is a distinction between the two. He continues by saying that either of them might exist by itself or alongside the other. Jim Rickards also adds that this recession is expected to dampen inflation and bring it down, but warns that the cons might outweigh the pros. Inflation is caused by supply-side problems, according to Jim Rickards. Hence, the Fed is powerless to combat it. Supply problems, as concisely explained by Jim Rickards, are problems inside the distribution chain, such as bottlenecks or obstacles within the supply chain altogether. There is also something called demand pull inflation, which, in Jim's opinion, is brought on by the way consumers feel about the economy. An increase in demand and a corresponding decrease in supply is what happens when shoppers react impulsively because of the likelihood of price increases. Following that, prices increase. According to Jim, the Federal Reserve can influence demand pull inflation by stifling consumer spending with measures like high interest rates and credit card fees. On the other hand, there is nothing that can be done about cost push inflation or problems inside the supply line. According to Jim Rickards, the current inflation issue is characterized by 2 unchangeable facts. First, the Fed is helpless and unable to do anything about it. And second, inflation will occur regardless of what is done. Jim Rickards thinks a recession is occurring now because of rising prices and a subsequent decrease in consumer expenditure and incomes. Last but not the least, according to Jim Rickards, increasing interest rates to curb inflation will be successful, but it will make the current economic downturn even worse. The United States is currently in a recession. US economic growth statistics from recent data supports this notion. In conclusion, Jim Rickards believes that the choice made by the Federal Reserve to keep increasing interest rates would only make matters even more difficult for the economy. Jim asserts that while doing this would temporarily contain inflation, it will ultimately lead to a much more severe recession. The World Trade Organization has provided statistics that support Jim Rickards' notion of a dramatic drop in global trade. Thus, his predictions of an even worse recession have some support. The decline in international trade has been exacerbated by events like the conflict in Ukraine, rising interest rates, and rising energy prices, and is only anticipated to get worse in the future. The World Trade Organization has also reduced its projections for global exports and imports in 2023 from 3.5% to just 1%. A 3.3% increase in global GDP in 2023 is now only expected to occur at a 2.3% rate. As the Federal Reserve and other central banks continue to raise interest rates in an effort to contain inflation, the World Trade Organization issued a warning that further decreases are likely. President Joe Biden promised the audience in a recent interview that a recession would not happen in the US despite all these obvious signs of one. According to him, even if a recession does happen, it will be small and won't have a substantial impact. Russia's war in Ukraine has triggered a severe food and energy crisis across Europe, contributing to the continent's already existing economic downturn. The US's growth rate is now expected to expand by 1.6%, down from the IMF's previous forecast of 5.7% for 2021. Consumers in the United States are already feeling the pinch from rising costs, and there doesn't appear to be any relief in sight as further declines are forecasted for 2023. The collapse in the world economy has been mostly attributed to inflation, an unprovoked war in Europe, and a crisis in China. Is it possible for the world's leading countries to recover from this setback? If so, when? Several months? Several years? 10 years or more? Nobody really knows, as only the passage of time will reveal the truth. How do you think the next few months will pan out for the US and its economy? What are your thoughts on the recession? Do you believe the Fed should keep rising interest rates and risk an economic collapse? Give us your insights in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.